welcome to another quick reaction video on the African Five-A-Side podcast. This podcast, as always, is brought to you by africasaCountry.com. Please go check them out. If you read the website, the articles on the website, I guarantee you'll be much, much smarter. Um, but I wanted to make this video very quickly because the Confederation of African Football, CAF, have announced that they have come to a decision in the whole incident that happened between the Libyan national team and the Nigerian national team a couple weeks back. Then I had made a video. I think there was a lot of contention from a lot of Nigerians who felt like I wasn't being fair in that video. But CAF did come to a decision about what happened. If you recall, just for summary's sake, the Nigerian delegation had flown out to Libya. The match was supposed to be played in Benghazi. Their flight was scheduled to land in Benghazi, and at the final moment, the control tower in Benghazi told them, no, you have to go to Labrak Airport, which I think is 300 kilometers east of Benghazi. The pilot apparently said that they were low on fuel, that this was dangerous, but they decided to make the diversion instead. And there, the Nigerian national team were held. Uh, well, they stayed at that airport for 15 hours. I don't know if they were held, but that's what many of them were claiming. For example, without food, without water, without Wi-Fi. We went through all of that. If you want the entire episode, you can go back and listen to it on this YouTube channel. But we weren't sure how this was going to play out because remember, CAF until the very last minute were insisting that Nigeria play the match, and that for me was a little bit of a red flag. I thought maybe the Nigerians could be in trouble for deciding not to play the game and deciding to go home. But today they announced that the Libyan Federation is found to have breached Article 31 of the African Cup of Nations regulations, as well as Articles 82 and 151 of the CAF Disciplinary Code. Therefore, the match is declared lost by forfeit by Libya by a score of 3-0, meaning Nigeria wins the match and now they have 10 points in the qualifying group. The Libyan Football Federation is also ordered to pay a fine of 50,000 US dollars, chump change in reality to any federation almost. The fine is to be paid within 60 days of notification. All other and further motions or prayers for relief are dismissed. Now, Libya can appeal this. I think they have 3 days, 3 or 10 days to appeal this to CAF. And of course, they can take that further to the Court of Arbitration of Sport. But I think this was interesting for a few different reasons, because if you read the articles that CAF cited when they made this decision, Article 31 of the African Cup of Nations qualifiers regulations states that the following minimum requirements for reception should be strictly respected. Number one, reception at the airport. A committee formed of the officials of the host association must be at the airport to meet the visiting delegation and must provide all facilities for the entry formalities into the country. Then say one official who speaks the language, blah, blah, blah. Transport facilities. One bus for the players and one car for the officials will be put at the disposal of the visiting delegation. And then they're also responsible for organizing, securing, and covering financially the accommodation. The host federation is obliged to assist the visiting team for the reservation of rooms, and then they have to keep them safe, and also they have to see them off when they leave the country. But I think what was interesting here is that they're saying either that they were not received at the airport by the Libyan Federation, which they obviously weren't, and CAF here is not accepting the fact that the diversion was a legitimate diversion and that it was an emergency measure. I think that's what they're saying here, because they're blaming them for not being there to receive them. Now, if the Libyans had a valid reason for diverting the airplane, which we touted as a possibility, improbable, but it was a possibility, I think CAF couldn't have used this article. So they're saying here that the diversion was illegitimate. They're also saying that the transport was not provided. We saw those three crappy minibuses, right? But it says one bus for players and one car for officials. We never saw any cars. And you know that there were many Nigerian officials traveling with the team. They also cited in the decision, what was it, Article 82? Article 82 of the CAF Disciplinary Code. Now, this is just a principles of conduct article. National associations, clubs, officials, and members, as well as their players, shall respect the principles of loyalty, integrity, sportsmanship, and ethics. And here, I think, again, what CAF is saying is that there was no legitimate reason to treat the Nigerians the way he treated them, and that this was done out of a lack of sportsmanship and ethics, not due to any kind of emergency measure at all. And I think we all suspected that anyways, right? But this is CAF saying that they investigated it and this is what they found. And I didn't think I did I look up the final article as well, 157. Yeah, or sorry, 151. 151 says that national associations shall organize that are that are organizing matches shall ensure the safety of players, officials, and the visiting team during the stay. Keep local authorities informed and collaborate with them actively and effectively. So they're saying, like even if it was the local authorities that said, you have to divert the airplane and everybody has to follow what the local authorities are saying, there was no kind of information, collaboration, this was like, and the host federation is in charge of that. Um, yeah. So overall, I think I'm not going to say it's the right decision or the wrong decision because, again, we don't really know what happened behind the scenes. We don't know what was investigated, what wasn't. I'm assuming all email correspondences and WhatsApp messages were viewed and that CAF eventually came to this decision on their own. For me to say this was a right decision or a wrong decision, I would have to read all of that material um, and then say, yes, this was right or wrong. But if we trust CAF's disciplinary committee, eventually what we can deduce from all of this is that they reviewed all of this and they found that the Libya diversion was absolutely due to unsportsmanlike actions and lack of ethics. Whereas, remember, the Libyans were complaining that the Nigerians did the same thing for them. The, if Nigeria hasn't been punished for that, which they haven't, I think for me that also indicates that it was probably the Libyan delegation that was in the wrong. Remember, the Nigerians claimed that they changed their flight route at the very last moment, that they organized their own transportation, and so on and so forth. So, looks like CAF is accepting the Nigerian side of the argument and not accepting the Libyan side of the argument. Again, me personally, I'm nobody to say that they made the right or wrong decision because I didn't see any of the investigation. But if we're trusting CAF, that means that, yeah, Nigeria were acting in good conscience and Libya were acting out of spite. Essentially, this is what the CAF decision is, whether you agree with it or not. So yeah, Nigeria have 10 points now. They are all but qualified to the African Cup of Nations 2025 in Morocco, which is going to be held again in about 13, 14 months time now. And I think that's good news because an AFCON without Nigeria is not really an AFCON, right? But I do expect Libya to fight this, whether at least appealing through CAF, but if not through CAF, then through the Court of Arbitration of Sport. Uh, Essentially, what did we all learn here? Be sportsmanlike, uh, as much as possible. And that even though, home countries, when they host matches, they always have a little bit of, there's always a little bit of underhanded tactics, especially in North Africa, whether that's beeping outside of the hotel, but that's all fun and games, or creating a really great home atmosphere. Like for me, some things are more acceptable to me than other people on the continent. I would even say like screaming at the team bus as it drives by. For me, all of that is acceptable in a sense. What isn't acceptable is diverting an airplane at the very last minute. It's extremely dangerous, especially in a place like Libya, which has often been a powder keg of conflict at various points over the last decade. So yeah, I think we're just gonna leave it there for now. This was just a very quick, short reaction video because the decision has just been made about 20 minutes ago. And yeah, I want to ask you guys if you think it was the right decision, but you are unqualified to tell me that, just as I am unqualified to tell you that. The only thing we can really do is say what the decision that was made, and as a result, based on this decision, how CAF sees what happened. Yeah, that's the only thing we can really do at the moment. So, yeah, I think overall, Nigeria is going to be happy to put this behind them, and they're going to be looking forward to finishing off the qualifiers versus Benin and Rwanda. And most importantly for Nigeria, I think, is getting back on track in the World Cup qualifiers next year. Anyways, this has been another reaction video on the African Five-A-Side podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, please subscribe, please comment, and I think this is just going to be a big debate in the comments below. Anyways, speak soon. Take care. Peace.